Sometimes we forget why we're here. It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up I had a dream, something no one else could see. Tell me what it means when your faith is falling beneath your knees and you can't breathe. Everything you see reminds you of what you're not or something you won't be. You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in the business. Not because they wanna do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shame. And that's the reason I'm staying up late, trying to find a way to escape the stereotypes this day and age is making me feel like the only way I'll be happy is getting signed to a label and making money through rapping. I wanna share my emotion because this world is attacking the very principle of life that lets the people be happy. If you don't have a reason to breathe, why even live? These battle scars are impressions of everything that it is.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Now, if I had a voice that reached 100 million people, I'd tell them there's a reason that we're all created equal. Cause some decide to be great and some decide a sequel to an average person's life is simply what they want to be. So you make your decision, all I know is what I'm given. Won't define the life I lead or the way I dwell in existence. I've seen a greater image on the walls of where I'm living, and the words twisted and scripted remind me of something written. Faith is a gift that is given down to the people. If one believes it, one receives it. It's given if it is needed. Don't ever think you're trapped in a life that you never wanted. Your options are infinite, that's some mathematical logic. I'm not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers and these battle scars on my church. Not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers, these battle scars on my church.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Well, hello everyone, how are you doing? And on my computer down here, I changed my Facebook my Facebook password, and my hair's all weird with this blue screen, and I can't go post on my stream because I need to get at least 3 concurrent viewers. I know Twitch is not normally my platform, but in order for it to count for me, we've got to drag one other person. Oh, look at this, my Mountain Dew can. I always find that funny. We'll do this so my can doesn't mess up my green screen. But hello, JJ. How are you doing? Let me tell you, before we get started on the Anarchists, I'm starting to look at that Idaho stuff, and it's just confusing the heck out of me. That's not going to be a fun meeting on the 11th. That's all I can say. Well, it's been an exhausting week for me. But, you know, these shows have been, they have been relatively short. Why can't I remember what my Facebook password is? I want to try to log on one other time. If you give me password saved, and let me put in my email address because I do want to drag some people over here so I am getting the Twitch credits that I need. Not now. That's not it. I don't know what the hell I changed my password to. Oh well, doesn't matter. We are here to do business one way or another. Okay. Oh crap. What page did I even write my notes on in this thing for? Surprisingly, even though I don't know if you, JJ, or anyone watched watch this episode, but out of all the episodes, I actually think this one was the best. After you factor in, you know, oh, and this shirt has enough green in it to be a little weird. You see, it's a gray shirt, but it's kind of like that green gray. Let me see if I can tone down the green screen effect a little. It makes my hair go whoop, but here we go. So at least my skirt, yeah, it gives me like a halo around my hair, but oh well, that's just the way it's going to be. So if you factor out the first episode, which was laying down the groundwork, and I think I even said this before, that each successive one that I'm feeling is a little bit better. This one was definitely the most dramatic and the most exciting. Now, I felt that some people were really, I suppose the criticism is fair up to a point, that the producers were trying to say that this was this group of loving anarchists until the crap hit the fan, and then all of a sudden they scattered like cockroaches when the light got turned on. But that's not really the way I saw it. There was already division. The division didn't happen because of the murder. And I either misunderstood, or the spoiler that I was given was wrong, because I was told, I don't even remember who told me this, and I probably misunderstood. I was told, I think after the first episode, that it was Paul who got murdered. But it wasn't Paul, unless Paul gets murdered too later. It's John that got murdered, not Paul that got murdered. But okay. There was already division. We're just going to call it after the two women, because those two women are still alive, unlike both of their husbands. Lisa Freeman, her husband died of cancer, Nathan, and Lily Forrester, and, you know, her husband was the one who got murdered. There was art every single time he uses the sink. Every single time Wayne uses a sink. I was going to joke before I came down here in the basement, hey, I'm going live. That's cue for you to use the sink. I'm wondering if he's watching this and he's going, oops. There was already division between these two women. Whether rightly, wrongly, I don't know how you feel about it. There was already division between these two women. And the division, at least as far from Lisa's point of view, is Lisa firmly believes that Lily and John were involved with Paul in selling drugs. Not just weed, but like cocaine-based drugs. Lily denies it. And Lily attributes their falling out to disagreements as to how Anarchopolco should be run, and like some authoritarianism or whatever it might be. Now, us as viewers are invited to judge. And I'm sure no matter what I say, I'm going to irk somebody. But I'm going to tell you, at this point now, after watching that episode, my honest opinion. How were they making their money? I know they admitted that they were dealing a little weed. That wasn't the issue. I know that they were like operating a kitchen out of their house. Okay. And I know it doesn't cost as much to live in Mexico. But do I suspect that probably at one point they were involved in Paul's drug dealing activity? If you want my gut feeling, yeah, I think they probably were. That's not victim blaming. No one deserves to get shot. And Bullet Frenzy, free start from the beginning, I'm late. This is pretty much the beginning. My intros are always real long. Obviously, anybody should, I'm a libertarian, anybody should be able to sell drugs. I don't care if they were selling drugs. I don't. I really don't. I don't care what drugs they were selling. But do I think, at least at the time that they were doing it out of the hotel room at, was it the 2018 Anarchapulco? Yeah, I think they were involved a little bit. And if they weren't actively involved, they were passively involved. If you had a hotel room and you were rooming with somebody and that person set up a drug dealing operation in your hotel room and you don't do anything about it, you're involved. Even if it's kind of a passive involvement, you're involved. Now, I know allegedly all of that got shut down. But then the dude who was doing it moves into your house. You don't think he's gonna stop? If you know how dangerous it is, and again, it's not victim blaming. Nobody deserves what happened to these people. And my heart bled for Lily. She lost the love of her life right in front of her. I cannot imagine seeing your significant other, I don't know if they were legally married, but they might as well have been, let's just say her husband, was shot right in front of her at the gate to their property. I mean, he died at the front gates to their property. That is horrible. And then Jason, who was just, I got to try to get some of this yellow off from behind my hair, even if my shirt disappears a little. I can't take it. That's about as good as it's going to get. And poor Jason, he's up the driveway, he gets shot. I'm dying to know, and I know Jason, though I don't think he's watching these types of shows anymore. I don't blame him. I can't imagine the type of trauma he is reliving from all of this. But damn, I know he was fighting for his life. I want to hear more about the injuries. I guess I've got a little bit of a morbid curiosity, particularly since he survived. But Lily is going to have lifelong post-traumatic stress disorder over this. I mean, without a doubt. And then there's a way the show spun this that I didn't like. So I take notes during these so I remember what to say. So you're not just getting like what I can remember the next day, because I watched this late last night. I've had a rough week, very tired after coming back from the LNC meeting. But the name of the episode was Living Without the Law, as if making it that these were a group of anarchists that were just determined they were never going to call the law. Let me tell you something. I'm an anarchist. My car gets stolen. I'm going to be calling the police. Is it because I believe in the state monopoly on rights enforcement? No. But it's because it's the only rights enforcement we have. For the same reason I still drive on roads that are paid for by the state, because we don't have other viable options. And your political philosophy is something you're working towards. It is not a suicide pact. But they made it sound like, okay, well, you got this group of anarchists, but they can't call the police because it would, violate their principles or something like that. No, that isn't what happened. And it wasn't life without the law, because some of them dealt with the police. Also, there is a lot of medical subsidies and things down there. They went to the hospital. So, come on. Painting it in that way was, it was sensationalistic. The reason Lily did not call the police is because she's wanted in the United States. And she was scared, whether this was a valid concern or not, is that they would extradite her to the United States. And not only would she have witnessed her husband getting murdered before her eyes, but she also would have then been facing a couple decades in prison for possession of pot, basically, in the United States. Taking everything she's told us true for the sake of argument. And again, those of you watching, please feel free to comment. You have different opinions than me. I'd love to hear it. Sorry, I need a lot of Mountain Dew. I am so freaking tired this week. It's not even funny. Plus, seriously, in Mexico, with the way the drug cartels really, you mess with the drug cart, the hospital almost didn't want to treat John because they were scared of the drug cartels. You really think there's much of a chance that the police are going to find who did this and do anything about it? So do you risk extradition for that? But I didn't get the whole thing about her calling. Who did she call? Was it Lisa? Asking if they could find some place to hide John's body? Like, that was kind of weird. I didn't get that one. But, you know, they made a big deal on the show about the fact then Jason and Lisa were having a hard time finding someone who was willing to take them in. Oh, hey, Bill, how you doing? I don't have to call you, but what if I want to call you Bullet Frenzy? It's a gaming name. I gotta stay away from gaming at all costs, I can tell you that. I've been sucked down that road before, and my LP life will be over if I get involved in gaming again, because, like, that just takes all your time. At least for me. Okay. So, they made this huge deal that they could find no one to take her in. That ain't an anarchist thing. That's a human thing. If the community kind of suspects that you were involved in doing something, right, wrong, or indifferent, that drew the attention of the drug cartels, and particularly if you're Lisa and Nathan Freeman and you've got little kids, are you going to be particularly eager to take in someone that the cartels might be looking for? It's not all that surprising. You can have a community all you want, but unless you're really, really good friends with someone, you're not going to be risking your life and your family's life for them. And the fact is, Lily and John made enemies there. Not with the cartel, I'm talking about amongst the other anarchists. Now, whoever their close friends were, that's a different story. Certainly weren't going to be taken in by Mod Pro, who stole Jason's wife. They weren't going to be taken in by Nathan and Lisa Freeman, that they were bad-mouthing and who had small kids. So it's not so surprising. And the way the documentarians painted it was just like trouble in anarchist paradise. Really, the show wasn't so much about the anarchists, but about a bunch of gringos that went down to Mexico and maybe fucked around and found out. Not victim blaming, just saying that when you go someplace where there's violent drug cartels, perhaps you need to stay far away from whatever their territory is. Okay. All right. And I wrote down the name. Remember, I remember Lisa Freeman's name this time because I said in the show that just out of the people that I genuinely, just for me, and I know other people have different opinions, I just genuinely really liked, like Lisa Freeman, the black lady that moved to Belize, Erica Harris is her name. What a sweetheart. Now, she said to Lily, come to Belize. You've got friends here. Now, I don't know where Lily ended up. I know her real name is Miranda, but, you know, kind of her I'm on the lam from the United States name was Lily, so that's what I'm going to continue to call her, rather. I'm not going to call them Miranda and Shane, which were the real names of John and Lily. I mean, Erica Harris has a heart of gold. What a sweetheart. Each show that that she's pictured on. I just like her more and more. And that Paul guy, oh my God, I get it. I get it. Being in the military screwed with your head, dude. But the way you acted and the way you talked about these people, and yeah, I get it that you don't like that Lily was, in your eyes, projecting and placing all the blame for John's murder on you. Her freaking husband got murdered. Cut her some slack, and you were dealing cocaine out of their house. Whether they were involved or not is a question that people are going to have different opinions on. But let me tell you one thing that's not in question. You, Paul, were dealing cocaine. And you are partly responsible for what happened. Now, did John bear some personal responsibility? I don't know. But you shit-talking and saying all those threats and stuff to a woman. You're a big man, huh? Big military man, you know? So you deflected some of it to Jason, because I think it probably felt gross to be threatening a woman. But Jason is such a sweetheart. Again, this is the way the documentarians are painting it. Maybe I'm being led by the nose by them, that I'm thinking exactly what they want me to think, but that's what I think, and I told you I was going to tell you what I think. Oh boy. And then, though, I found this kind of gross. The big concern was, oh my God, this happened 10 days before Anarchapulco 2019. What if they should have just canceled it. You know, I know a lot of people didn't go. They said they didn't feel safe. I don't blame them. I wouldn't have went after that. But, like, all of a sudden, like, the focus turned on, should we cancel it? Yes, you should cancel the event. Somebody just got murdered. A young woman is on the run, having a hard time finding somewhere to go. You got a violent drug cartel that might blame your entire community, and it was even a question whether you should cancel the event. Yes, you cancel the event. I am sure a lot of people disagree with me on that, but that's where I'm at. But for all his demons or whatever, at least the way he's being painted in the show, man, Paul's a big scumbag. Maybe if I knew him personally, I'd think he was the nicest guy in the world, and I'd be like, don't come for me. I don't even know if he's still alive. He's still alive, don't come for me, bro. Like, but I had heard, somebody told me he was the one who got murdered, because I have a feeling somewhere in the show that he something happened to him too. But it seemed like, you know, you had your personality conflicts. You had Lily and John who were doing a little bit of shit stirring. And, you know, I'm sure Lisa and Nathan weren't completely innocent of it as well. And Jeff is just Jeff. He's a bit loony. But it seemed like the fly in the anarchist ointment, the thing that started all the trouble, the person that was stirring all the shit, or at least lit the fuse, was Paul. Now, maybe they're just painting him to be the villain, but he's the villain of this piece. I mean, obviously the cartel, but that's this nameless, faceless, we don't know who they are. But out of the people we know, I mean, Paul sure thought he was just a big man, didn't he? And though that did bring into focus a reality for those of us who are anarchists, that in our Ancapistan, or whatever we want to call it, there will be Pauls. How are we going to handle them? They didn't handle this one right. A lot of this probably could have been avoided if disassociation, and dude, we know you're fucked up in the head, but you got to go get that taken care of, and you not be a bully and just a complete asswipe to the rest of the community. So there is a lesson to be learned here for us. And, yeah, the show ended weird. It just ended, well, it didn't, the show didn't end. This episode ended weird, you know, with the threats, with Lily on the run, And my God, I felt bad for John's parents who were there. So, yeah, it just ended in high drama, basically. And it seemed like a lot of the interviews, and now I could be wrong, y'all will let me know, it seemed like a lot of the interviews done with Lily were contemporaneously, like right after the murder happened. But it was interposed with interviews with Jason that seemed to be done much later. Like that big room he's sitting in that they keep showing. That doesn't seem like it was done at the same time. And it kind of created a disjointed feel. Now, what somebody told me, what they felt that the narrative that the documentarians were trying to spin was between the haves and the have-nots in the anarchist community, that some of them, really did very well on that big Bitcoin boom and others didn't, and there was like this wealth division. But I never really got that impression. I know some people were living in these like mansions on the hill and other were more in the slums, but they were doing that, and it seemed like it was the same people who were doing that before they even got rich on Bitcoin. So I don't know. So I'm wondering y'all's thoughts, because that's really all. These shows have been about a half hour each, because that's about all you can really talk about them. But I'm curious if other people have different perspectives, because I can tell you, I know this is going to seem like a rabbit trail, but I like watching, and I still watch, even though this show has been over for years now. I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan, as most of you know. Have my own theories on season 8, and I still watch shows reviewing Game of Thrones, and it's very interesting to me, because I guess I'm just not that picky, because I liked the series. There's a lot of flaws in it that, I saw after they were pointed out to me by other review shows. I didn't notice them while I was sitting there watching them. I just enjoyed the show. So I'm curious if maybe I'm being as like naive or just, rose-colored glasses while watching this one. I don't know. Guess we're going to find out, because I am going to be doing a review show on House of the Dragon when it comes out. Oh, it's a couple weeks now. Doesn't it come out like August 20th or something like that? So we'll see. I'll probably be gushing about it and think it's wonderful. I'll watch other people's reviews and they'll tell me everything that's wrong with it. But I kind of get lost in the fantasy world of those kinds of shows, and I'm just not a very critical viewer, but we'll see. And that's probably going to be Twitch only content. I think that's the kind of stuff I'm gonna keep for Twitch. So unless there are comments, and I do thank I had 3 concurrent viewers, so thank you. I am trying to get into the affiliate program really bad, so I do appreciate you guys. I will be putting this up on YouTube probably Saturday night. I'm keeping it exclusively Twitch for a while, though it will go up on my Patreon probably later tonight. And in other news, let me do a little LP ranting if you don't mind. It's the end of the show. Those of you who don't give a crap about the LP or about politics at all, you can turn off at this moment. But the membership numbers came out for June, July. They are still incredible. If you go and you look at past membership trends, so between June and July, out of National Party sustaining members, that's the people who pay at least $25 a year, we lost about 25 members. It's less than that. I think it was 19, but I just rounded to 25. That is statistically insignificant. That kind of fluctuation is natural. But of course, the little small handful, and it is just a small handful of haters, we're just like, it just, all I can do is say, thank God I'm not that miserable. Even when the LP was bending me over without lube, now, God, if I put this on YouTube, I'm definitely not getting monetized. I still wasn't such a miserable little wretch. Like, even if you don't like the LNC, you want the party to succeed. I've always wanted the parties to succeed. Even when I hated the LNC, I didn't want to see membership numbers go down because I knew the LNC was temporary, but the party has to survive. How many members are there? I think we went from 17,800 to like 17,770 something. Like, statistically insignificant. When we say members, it's dues paying members. Obviously, we have pledge signers, we have state party members, we have registered libertarians. Those are in the hundreds and hundreds of thousands. But our dues paying members, the core backbone, our activist base. And to make a big deal out of something that really is it's less than a change of one member per state. It's like every other state or every third state lost one member. And it's not even necessarily a loss. It could be, oh crap, I don't get paid until the 1st and my membership expired, so, I'll renew it in a couple weeks. Libertarians are terrible about renewing on time. And if you hadn't noticed, despite what Biden says, we are in a recession. One of the things the fact that we didn't lose more than that in a recession is incredible. Absolutely incredible. When you're worried about putting gas in your car and food on your table, one of the things that gets cut is voluntary dues to an organization. Because you're still a member even if you don't pay dues as long as you sign the pledge. But my God, these people are just miserable people. So today I decided to go on a bit of a Facebook rampage and Twitter rampage. So I signed up as a monthly pledger because I hadn't been able to do that for a while. I'm answering JJ's question. I'm going to put that on the screen because the Twitch chat will not transfer over to YouTube. So, oh, that's like on black. That's weird. Let me put it up here. Well, it's not showing up very well. It says, does that include new life members? Yeah, new life members never drop off. So let's say we had $17,025 a month payers and 800 life members. That 800 number will never go down because you're a life member unless you write, because you kind of have to do it like the Mormon church. If you're a life member and you want to be taken off the membership rolls, you've got to repudiate your pledge. You've got to repudiate your pledge. It is like the Mormon church when it comes to that. Otherwise, you never get off the membership rolls. So, since I'm a life member, I decided to become a monthly pledger. So I'm still giving money because I hadn't been able to do that for a while. So I signed up today to be a monthly pledger. I earmarked my pledge to the Historical Preservation Committee. I got at least 3 people to renew. Actually, I think 2 renewals. So we can knock down that number of some that we lost. They were just like, oops, I forgot to renew. And 1 new member. And not at the minimum amount, not at $25 a year, but at $60 a year. So any of you listening, if you forgot to renew, you are making people that you probably think are pretty gross happy. So renew. So do renew. And if you've been considering becoming a member, I hope that since May, if you've been paying attention to the messaging coming out of the National Party, it's pretty badass. Become a member. I truly appreciate it. And JJ asked, did any of the dues-paying members become life members? Yes. I don't have those figures, though. The report we get doesn't break it down that way, but I could find it out. For instance, over the next few months, if Wayne's expected real estate sales go the way they're supposed to go, he'll go from being a dues payer to a life member. He's wanted to be a life member for a while. We just haven't had the money. So that does happen regularly. And a lot of times life members, because, you know, the life members, those are the hardcore, they then become monthly pledgers. They become monthly pledgers. You know, you become a life member, you tend not to give anything more for a few years, and then you end up being like a $10 a month, so a pledger, so it ends up even more. But I would like to, over the next week, make up that amount, just to kind of just shut the pie holes of people who are just being miserable for no reason. Of all people, I probably had just cause last year to celebrate at party failures, and I didn't. I may have chuckled a bit at LNC failures, but I did not ever glory or be happy about things that end up just hurting the membership and hurting the future prospects of the party. If that really is the way you feel, you know, people who act and feel like that, I don't like people to leave. But if you're going to act like that, well, we're probably better off without you. Honestly. If I, after everything that happened to me, could still be sad if I saw membership numbers go down. Even if because when people wrote the party or wrote me and said, I'm not renewing my membership until you're reinstated, or I quit paying dues because of what happened to you, I always encourage them not to do that. That didn't honor me. That didn't make me happy. And if I could do that, these other people who just happen to have an LNC that they don't like, that did nothing to them personally, they can do that too. Seriously, if I can do it, you can do it. All right. Oh, the one last thing I said, there was one more political thing. I got to look it up, but this month I got to collect signatures. I am running for Castle Rock Town Council, and you have to collect, it's not even to well, it is to get on the ballot, so I shouldn't say it's not really to get on the ballot, but it's not like a ballot access thing. It's a real minimal amount. It's like 25. I think they just have that in place in Castle Rock to prove you're serious, so that 50 people just don't go, you know, they get drunk one night and go, ha, put my name on the ballot. They make you do a tiny bit of work just to prove you're serious, and it is a tiny bit. So I'm going to have to go around, and it has to be in your district. So I'm going to have to go around my neighborhood in a couple weeks. I forget the date when I can first start collecting. It's coming up. It's in August. I just don't remember what date it was. And get my signatures. So then I can officially kick off my campaign. I'll need a campaign manager and a treasurer, unless I just end up doing all that myself, which I wouldn't be surprised. And I am no longer the Susan Lucci of the Ballot Access Committee. Ever since I've been on the LNC, and my first term started in 2016, I have wanted to be on the Ballot Access Committee. I always run for it. I always lose. This time, I got on. Now, it's only for a few months because I'm filling a vacancy. There were 2 LNC vacancies. When I say there were 2 seats that were required to be filled by LNC members. And I won one of them. So I'll only be on it till November, because this is a weird committee term that only extends to November. But I think being on it, if I do a good job, I have a chance of getting on it again, hopefully. Maybe not, but at least I'll have a little bit of experience. And of course, the current chair, and I love him, it's Dustin Nanaconda. And when he knew I was running, he's like, if you get elected, will you be secretary of the committee? And I was like, of course. Of course. You know, I was the Susan. I'm glad somebody gets my jokes, because most of the LNC is very, very young. So when I was giving my nomination speech and I go, I'm the Susan Lucci here, I don't think any of them knew what I meant at all. I think they were like, who the fuck is Susan Lucci? But anyway, that's the curse, though, of being secretary of anything. You end up being secretary of everything from that moment into the future. But I don't care. On this one, I know there's a lot of records to keep. That's part of my strengths. So yeah, I'll be Secretary Dustin of the Ballot Access Committee. All right, everyone, that is it for this. We've got 2 more episodes of The Anarchists, because it's a 6-episode miniseries. But after that, she did eventually win. Just like I did. I eventually won. So I think immediately after the Anarchists are done, that's when House of the Dragon starts. And I am so into Game of Thrones, you have no frickin' idea. Da-na-na, da-na-na, da-na-na. The Reigns of... And I also know the Reigns of Castamere. Anyway, I've got the soundtrack. I'm into it. All right, guys. I'm going to have to come up with a good backdrop, though, for Game of Thrones. Because I am like Tyrion Lannister. I drink and I know things. They should... Let me tell you, though, Bill, my theory, if you haven't heard it, because I tell everybody who will listen to me, and I'll say it again on House of the Dragon. Yes, Season 8 bit, but it didn't bite as bad, I think, as people think it did. But here's my theory. No one will ever convince me otherwise. I do not believe Dany turned into the Mad Queen. I don't believe it for a second. And I think there were enough hints that she didn't. If you remember, all the way back in, I think it was season 1, but when Bran was having visions, and one of the visions and one of the scenes they kept showing was the dragon shadow, which turned out to be Drogon, flying over King's Landing. How could you ever see the shadow unless he warged into Drogon or Dany? You could only see that shadow from the air. And it was flying faster, and like the way it was viewed, it wasn't a crow. It wasn't like he warged into a crow, maybe an eagle like that one guy. So, my theory is that the bad guy in Game of Thrones was Bran. He turned into a creepy little fuck. But I did not like him towards the end. I think he was the bad guy because he kept saying all along he's no longer Brandon Stark. He no longer had any desires. He didn't want to be anything. He couldn't be the Lord of Winterfell. And then who ends up being king? Bran Stark. So, I think Bran either warged into Drogon or Drogon and Dany and caused all of that destruction. She took the fall for it so he could be king. That wasn't really Dany. I don't care what anyone says. And the frickin' hero of that whole story, at least for my anarchist heart, was Drogon. So after Jon kills Dany, and he thinks Drogon's gonna, roast him like a marshmallow, what does Drogon do? Drogon looks over and is like, that goddamn throne is what caused all these problems, and melts it. And you want to know how else I know Bran? Bran was the baddie. Okay, and then he flies off, and here's Bran. Oh, what happened to the dragon? Oh, yeah, last we saw he was flying over to wherever he was flying off to. I think it was over across the narrow sea, whatever. He's like, oh, I'll take care of that later. It was just like so ominous. Bran was the bad guy. That's my theory. Nothing is going to convince me otherwise. I'm still Team Dany. I do believe she wanted to break the wheel. But guess who ended up... Well, he didn't actually break the wheel, but he did burn the throne down. That was Drogon. Drogon also has a place near and dear to my heart. All right, we're done talking Game of Thrones. We'll be doing a lot of that in the future. I hope you guys have an awesome night. I will not be doing Twitch tomorrow. Tomorrow, we'll be back on YouTube, and we're going to be discussing, at least as far as I think, because sometimes I change my mind, I want to talk about Project Archimedes. I did scan in those pages. If you look in the chairs, the the current chair, Chair Angela McArdle's strategic plan for the future of the party. We hadn't adopted the strategic plan yet because additional suggestions came up in executive session. She wants to incorporate those suggestions. She's an excellent chair so far, by the way. Way different. I'm just telling you, and I'm not just saying that because she's one of my best friends. She's a really good chair in how her management style. So if you read the strategic plan, you'll notice she mentions Project Archimedes. So I think it behooves us all to become familiar with what it was. So I think we're going to cover that tomorrow. So it'll be a LP history show. Talk to you then, and have an awesome night. I know my ending patron screen isn't correct. There's a few that dropped off. I need to correct it. But you could save me some editing time, that if you'd like to become a patron at patreon.com/Pink Flame of Liberty, I'll take a look before I do the editing and maybe your name can be up there. But thank you so much for coming and supporting me on Twitch. I hope you have an awesome night. Bye-bye.
Given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business, not because they want to